Okay, we're coming up on that weird egg-shaped ship we saw on the radar. We should get, like, really, really close to it, right?
H2, no.
Close to it? I think we should land on it. I mean, has anything bad ever happened from landing on strange alien spacecraft of unknown origin before?
Yes, 2-0.
Dude, I'll do you even one better. We shouldn't just land on it. We should go inside the fucking thing.
Oh,
there's so
wow.
much cool stuff in there. I bet you anything.
No way. We should definitely not go inside the alien ship.
Yeah, dude, we should definitely go in there. And if there's like weird alien tech, like, I don't know, these levitating diamond-shaped flying devices, we should hop on them and just fly all around the place.
You guys are idiots.
Oh, dude. And while we're flying around in there, if we come across any, I don't know, just example off the top of my head, say ominous videos of an alien crew getting absolutely fucking mutilated by some sort of xenomorph,
Sure.
we should just, ignore that shit and just explore way further into the damn ship.
Hell yeah, dude.
I hate you guys.
I'm with Coolabot. I think this is a really stupid idea.
Buxton, shut
the fuck up, Buxton. This is why we never invite you to anything. Welcome to Crew Expendable. I am 3D poker addict Hallstrom.
And I am secondary maintenance engineer Rohrbacher.
And we are Tony Hawk's Diamond Flyer Pro Skaters. Go ahead. What do you got?
No, yours was way better. Go with that. Just you know what? Fuck it. Let's just start over from the beginning. We'll just take it from the top. I don't want to interrupt you. Yours was way better than mine was.
And we are Tony Hawk's Diamond Flyer Pro Skater champions of the alien universe.
That is correct. That is extremely correct. I love to get the high score in every level.
My other designation, my backup designation. What were you going to say, though? I'm interested. This is all staying in.
Left and square is the kickflip on those diamond flyers.
Somebody's playing on PlayStation.
Actually, no, sorry. Left and square would be the heel flip. Right and square would be the kick flip. Sorry.
There you go.
But check it. Folks, we're reading a novel again. We haven't done that in a while.
We are reading a book, guys. We are here to talk about the first 12 chapters of Aliens Steel Egg by John Shirley. But before that, Kenny, play any of this new Doom game yet?
Dark Ages, no, I have not yet played it. It looks fun, and I've heard it was good. But just like the last couple of Doom games, there have been a lot of people that have been finding excuses to bitch about it.
Sure.
But overall, people seem to really like it. But no, I have not played it yet.
I'm only 6 chapters in, 6 levels in. Okay. But we talked about Doom a lot on this podcast, and I've talked about Doom a lot in my personal life, right? Everyone knows. Everyone who knows me knows I'm a huge fan of the entire series, and became addicted to Doom Eternal in a way I didn't think I could become addicted to a video game, to the point where I couldn't stop playing it, and finally had to stop because it was definitely triggering seizures for me, guys. Not good for me. Kenny, your experience with Doom Eternal a little different, right? You liked the 2016 game. Eternal wasn't really scratching the itch for you, right?
Yeah, Eternal didn't really do it for me. It felt a lot more when this enemy is there, you have to use this specific weapon against them. Like in 2016, it was basically once you found a weapon you liked and got used to it, you could just use that forever. And in their attempt to make the game a little bit more tactical, for Eternal, in my mind, it took the fun out of just the wholesale slaughter that the previous one had.
Okay.
But I mean, the game is good, but and I beat the main story, but I never beat the DLC.
Right.
I was like halfway through Ancient Gods Part 2, and I was like, you know what, I'm done playing this, and so I just stopped.
Well, I got news for you. I think you're gonna like Dark Ages when you play it.
Good.
I think it's gonna be a little bit more up your alley. It feels a lot more Doom 2016 to me. It does still have the tactical weapon switching, like combat tactics aspect of Doom Eternal, but more balanced and more. There's definitely more freedom with it. It doesn't feel as much of like what you're saying of like, oh, with this enemy I have to switch to this weapon, and with this enemy I have to switch to that. There are more options, and it does allow you a little bit more freedom in that arena, so to speak. And just the feeling and the pace of the game feels a little bit more 2016 speed, like literal speed. Like the speed of the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
And I appreciate the slower speed because maybe it won't trigger epileptic seizures for me.
Maybe.
So far, so good.
I'm hoping the game is playable on a Steam Deck because that's what I'm going to be playing it on if it is.
Sure.
And basically, I'm just waiting for me to get enough money on one of my checks to be able to spend the money to buy it is
Gotcha.
basically what I'm pretty much just waiting for.
You need to shell out that Game Pass money.
I do not own a PC or an Xbox. So
Yeah, I guess Steam doesn't really cooperate with Game Pass, do they?
not as far as I know. So
I don't know anything about it. Anyway, yeah, man. Doom Dark Ages, pretty fun.
yeah, like I said, I've heard good things. I've heard good things. People have been saying it's pretty good, so I'm looking forward to playing it sooner or later.
That's a Doom update. And this has, as always, whenever we talk about Doom, I need to remind the Alien fans out there that this is relevant because when id Software, back in the day when John Romero and John Carmack were looking for the next game to use their Doom engine on, their original Doom engine on, before Doom, they entertained the idea of trying to license the Aliens property before making their own original game, which became Doom. So it's all connected.
That's right.
Also, John Shirley, the author of this book, wrote the Doom movie adaptation novel.
The first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
The
cool.
the Carl Urban movie.
Yeah.
He
The 2005 one with The Rock and Carl Urban, yeah.
Yeah. He wrote the adaptation novel of the movie.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Shout out to our man John Shirley.
I'm sure that's real good.
I have it. I have the ebook. I haven't read it yet.
This is me being the least shocked I've ever been in my life. Of course, you own the ebook of the novelization of the Doom movie.
Yeah. Hey, I don't own the paperback. At least I don't think I do.
I said you owned the ebook.
I might own the paperback. I don't think I do.
You might, though. I mean, that's the thing. It's not the kind of thing that I would be surprised if you did.
Yeah. I own the Tomb Raider Cradle of Life novelization. But hey, I'm not on trial here.
You're right. You're not. That is correct. I'm simply forming my own opinions.
I also played the Neversoft Spider-Man game from 2000s again. That game rules. What have you been up to?
Anyone out there, if you've been playing video games the last month or two, you've probably heard of a little game called Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
Hell yeah.
It might be one of the best turn-based RPGs ever made in the history of the genre.
Nice. Yeah, man, it looks really good.
Like there's a chance that it might be because it is insane how good this game is.
Very cool. It's on my list. The things that have stopped me from jumping into it are the amount of time I have to invest in a game of that length, coupled with knowing that Dark Ages was coming out and I was going to play that. And I feel like I have you know how like Link has a magic meter in Ocarina of Time? Like I have a video game meter that like once I expend all of that, I can't play games anymore or I'll start having brain problems.
That's fair.
And I'm saving all of that up for Doom. but then also Metaphor Refantagio, or however you say the other word, is coming to Game Pass in like a couple of days, and I need to play that. So I haven't jumped into Expedition 33. I'm like, I got a lot of barriers to this right now.
I also have a lot of opinions, capital O opinions about Metaphor, and they are not the same opinions I have of Expedition 33.
Ooh.
I famously don't really think Metaphor is that good of a game.
Interesting. We haven't talked about this because
we haven't. That's correct.
Yeah.
I have gone on record before that I think Persona 5 Royal is one of the best video games ever made. Metaphor, I got like 5 hours into it and then got bored and stopped.
Okay. Well, I won't race. Maybe I'll bump that for Expedition 33 then.
The thing of it is that's a minority opinion. Most people like it more than any of the Persona games.
Yeah.
Like it was considered one of the best RPGs to come out last year. I'm like the only person I know that doesn't like it.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do?
That's true. But yeah, Metaphor, it's like fine if that's what you're looking for. It just didn't hit for me, but Expedition 33 absolutely does hit. That game is phenomenal. It's insanely good. And definitely anyone listening, go play it if you can tolerate turn-based RPGs.
Is it set in the Doom universe?
It's not, no.
Oh, okay.
Oh, speaking of things being set in universes, though, I've been watching all of the Bond movies.
Sure.
And then the GoldenEye was the last one that I watched, so I'm in the Brosnan era.
Yep.
I believe Tomorrow Never Dies is next, I think. But anyway, I took a break from those to watch as many of the Mission Impossible movies again that I can before I go see Final Reckoning. Okay. It's already out by the time we record this. But last night, I even took a break from those to watch another recent spy thriller movie. I watched the first Kingsman movie.
Oh boy. All right. How was that? How was that experience? I've watched that recently. I want to know what your experience was like with that.
Okay. It is a movie that has parts of it that are very good that I liked a lot.
Sure.
It also does a few things that were insanely stupid that made me extremely angry.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is based on a Mark Millar comic book, and Mark Millar's a fucking hack.
That's true.
So there you go.
I will agree to that, yeah.
Everything you need to know about Kingsman, the Secret Service right there. They do always have like a good, strong like action set piece, and then the rest of it is kind of like hit or miss, right?
There's a couple of really cool action scenes. I liked like how the entire cast was just kind of like a who's who of current big name British actors. Mm-hmm. I thought that was fun. Like seeing all the people that were in it, all the big names that were in it were fun. The action scenes were cool, but it was a little too long, and all that complete bullshit that they did with the princess in the final end of the movie was just absolute ass.
Yeah, literally, haha, right? Because of that.
Yeah, got him.
Those who know.
But it was a movie that on first blush, I was like, as I even said in my Letterboxd review, at first blush, I was like, I'll give it 4 stars. And then I thought about it and went, I'll give it 3.5 stars. And then I thought about it and I was like, I'll give it 3 stars. And then I thought about it and I was like, actually, I'll give it 3.5 stars. And then I went, it's getting 3 stars.
That's about right.
So
yeah,
it's perfectly serviceable. There are parts of it that are good. There are parts of it that are stupid. But overall, I liked more of it that I didn't like. But it's not like good necessarily.
Yeah, there's a reason it didn't like really launch a successful franchise, right? There was like the sequel and the prequel, and that none of them really hit, right?
Yeah, and like from what I can tell, the first one seems to be the best reviewed of the 3.
Yeah.
Which, oh boy.
Yeah, I think the prequel had like a World War One like trench fight that was like a really great, fight scene.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
And that
I
was it.
liked the first one enough that I'm interested in seeing the other two, but I don't know if I'm interested enough to go out of my way to actively choose to watch them. But I didn't hate it.
Sure. Yeah, I have not had any interest to watch the rest of them. I've watched that first one a couple of times because Colin Firth, right? Is that
Colin
it?
Firth, yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty great in it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree.
Is it Taron? Who's the guy? What's his name?
Taron Egerton.
Taron
Yeah.
Egerton. Like they are pretty great. I like watching their performances.
I agree.
And that's kind of it.
Yeah, like Michael Caine is just being exactly the same as he is in every single other movie. Samuel L. Jackson looks stupid, and they gave him a really dumb sounding lisp. And
Right.
Sophia Boutella barely does anything except have really cool knife legs.
Yeah.
And otherwise, she's basically a non-presence in the movie.
Right. But but Colin Firth is I like the main characters basically. And that's kind of
that's a good way to look at it. The two leads are probably the best two characters in the movie. Yes, that's correct.
Anyway.
Anyway,
should we get into this book? I wonder. So I wanted to talk about Doom because the new Doom game is out, and we have a history talking about Doom. I wanted to check in on what it's been a little while since we've recorded, not a long time, but we're a little behind schedule. But I feel like I'm hesitating a little bit to get into this because I don't know how I feel about Aliens Steel Egg by John Shirley. At least this first half.
Yeah, listeners, Neil did not tell me he didn't like what we read. He did, however, tell me that he wasn't sure if he liked what we read.
Yeah, which is
which itself is kind of a damning indictment, but I mean, I suppose it's not as bad as you outright immediately being like, yuck.
I'll be honest, like once we got towards the end of the half, right? Once we got towards the midpoint of the novel, I guess I'll just say, and things started to get ratcheted up. There was a lot of stuff I liked there, but overall, I'm not so crazy about this thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess we should kind of dive into it, but I've given my sort of initial impressions. People know what they're into or in for. What are your initial impressions?
My initial impressions are,
or your overall impressions, I guess, is a better word, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much more about the extent of it. But yeah, like the first, not quite half, the first third, maybe the first 40% of what we read. So the first 4 or 5 chapters, give or take. This might sound like a kind of weird comparison, but it reminded me a lot of Star Trek.
I can see that.
And
okay,
it reminded me even more specifically of why I don't like Star Trek, in that it is specifically a whole bunch of characters standing around just making up words that are meant to indicate some kind of piece of technology that we, the reader, don't have or understand.
yeah, a lot of that. Oh.
And which I believe is generally referred to as technobabble. And the first half of the section of the book we read is just page after page after page of them just trying to describe high-tech alien technology, but they don't describe it very well, so you don't get a good sense of what anything looks like or what's happening at all.
It's really it was tough.
And so the first 4 chapters of this book, first 5 chapters maybe, were just, it's like I was staring at a brick wall, man. I was turning page after page and going, I have nothing to write down here. Like if you look at my notes for chapter 1 are 2 sentences long.
Oh, brother.
Because there was like nothing to mention, because it was literally just like 9 pages straight of characters standing on the bridge of the ship going, that looks like a big huge egg out there. There's a big floating egg. All these weird squiggly lines keep appearing on the side of this egg. And I was like, I don't care, man.
It's got these lines that are waves or ridges or curves or waves or curves or ridges on this egg. And yeah, man.
That was my big problem with it. Like later on, after the book finally went, oh yeah, this is supposed to be about xenomorphs, and they start introducing xenomorphs.
Sure.
That's when I started rubbing my hands together and going, oh baby, we're in the shit now.
Yes.
But like until then, I was like, man, don't care. Just flipping page after page, waiting for literally anything to happen.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So just so listeners know, John Shirley specifically stated, I don't remember where, but he said that the premise of this book is like he watched Alien and watched Aliens and went, they do a whole bunch of hinting and implying at where xenomorphs came from, where they originated from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a prequel novel that explains where xenomorphs came from.
Well,
and then when you read the novel, the explanation is they already existed. And I was like, yeah, thanks, man.
I mean, we're splitting hairs here. It's in his author's note at the beginning of the book. He says he's going to explain how the company, how Earth and the company find out about the aliens and the derelict spacecraft. Which,
not only are you correct, I would say that's a significant enough difference than what I said that would not count as splitting hairs.
Okay.
I simply misremembered it. I got it wrong.
Okay.
That's fine.
Splitting logs then. But
okay, fair.
Which is something I'm happy about. I would love to figure out how, and Prometheus doesn't count. Okay. I mean, it counts, but you know what I mean.
The thing of it is when Prometheus took place, the company already knew about them.
That's true. Yeah.
So Prometheus, like the events of Prometheus don't even cover what the premise of this book is ostensibly even about.
I mean, I would love to figure out how the company knew about the derelict, like the story, right?
Yeah, that's true.
The story of how, we know what's on that ship. We know what we're sending the Nostromo out to get. We know what these things are. We've had an encounter with them, whatever. That's a story I want to get. I don't want to get the story of how the xenomorphs were created. So I'm with John Shirley on that. Yeah, man. I'm with you on all of your, it was a lot of techno babble. Let's talk about John Shirley for a minute, because this is a fascinating human being. Okay.
All right.
Most notably, co-wrote the screenplay for The Crow with David J. Shaw.
Okay, I did not know that. All right.
The Alex Parias, the original, the Brandon Lee Crow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the Crow.
The good one. All right. Probably not his most notable work, but that really struck out to me. Okay.
All right.
John Shirley, let's see. He was lead singer of a punk band called Sado Nation. He has written, according to Wikipedia, 23 song lyrics for the band Blue Oyster Cult. He wrote a rock opera called A Dying Machine with Mark Tremonti.
Mark Tremonti, yeah.
The guitarist.
I'm familiar with that.
The guitarist from Creed, everybody. What If?
He's also the guitarist from Tremonti, but...
What If, right? I'm referencing our What If episode. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. And he's a very prolific author of cyberpunk novels, which is probably why he gets so hung up on describing technology. Whether we could picture it or not, I don't know, maybe he used all those good ideas on his original novels before 2007. He has collaborated with, speaking of cyberpunk, he has collaborated with William Gibson on many short stories. Yeah, he's been like publishing novels since 1979. Like original novels all the way up until the mid 2000s with Doom, the novelization of the film, which I mentioned being, it looks like his first sort of adaptation novel. And that sort of kicked off a stream of these of licensed novels that he was doing, including the film novelization of Constantine.
All right.
Followed by a Hellblazer novel, not based on the movie franchise, but based on the DC Vertigo character, right?
Yeah. All right.
A Predator novel, Forever Midnight. He's done Batman novels, more Constantine novels, Alien, Steel Egg, Bioshock novel, Borderlands novels, Watchdog, a Halo novel, Resident Evil. He's just done a whole lot of franchise novelizations, right?
Well, good for him. That's good work if you can get it.
Yeah. Some of his original series is his first novel was called in 1979 was Transmaniacon. Looks like that's how that's pronounced. Dracula in Love, which I want to read so badly.
All right. That's good.
A series called A Song Called Youth, which is 3 novels, Eclipse, Penumbra, and Eclipse Corona. Silicon Embrace. These novels, these names mean something to somebody. Anyway, bottom line is prolific writer, prolific musician. So guy knows what he's doing.
He sure does. That's true.
He has other screenwriting credits too, including the RoboCop TV series, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. There you go.
Okay. Yep, there I go.
Todd McFarlane's Spawn, the HBO animated series.
Yep, okay.
Batman Beyond, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's like a dude, right? He's just like a dude who's
he's a dude.
Been doing this his whole life.
Yeah.
And here we are, 2 bums on a podcast going, I don't know, man. He sure talked about these diamond flyers a lot.
Well, okay, he did, admittedly, you are correct. He did talk about them a lot, okay? They are a lot bigger in the novel, like in importance, than you would think they are. They get used a lot.
So often, dude. I think the specific, now I think I get what he was doing, introducing this alien race with this technology. It's very different than anything we've seen in the movies. Even though he's in his author's note, he was like, I really focused on Alien and Aliens, for this, to develop this novel. And I think he was mostly talking about maybe the creatures and the human, like the organizations and stuff.
Yeah.
But he introduces an alien species that is so alien to the world that we had come to know, right? That it feels like it was pulled from a different franchise. It feels like it was pulled from Star Trek or something, and then got infected with xenomorphs. It feels very disconnected, and maybe that's why the tech stuff just felt so strange and so hard to like wade through. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, like all of the tech, like it feels very chrome.
Yes.
Not like necessarily in color, but just like that style of like slick with a lot of sheen, smooth looking. All of the tech looks like that.
Sure.
And then the aliens look like, if anyone knows who Mr. Blobby is,
God.
The aliens look like Mr. Blobby.
I couldn't figure out. I just kept picturing Bender for some reason when they were trying to describe what the aliens look like. Everything was cylindrical and straight. Well,
the aliens themselves are like tall and like they're like thin, so they're like a thin Mr. Blobby, but they're like fleshy with a lot of like hanging excess skin, and they're described as like yellow with like mottled dotted skin. And I was like, they look like fucking Mr. Blobby.
I just looked up Mr. Blobby. Oh my God, this hurts. Yeah, dude. Anyway.
So anyway, Tom, since I know you're listening, shout out to Mr. Blobby.
Oh no. All right.
Yeah, Mr. Blobby is like a British TV character, so Tom definitely knows who he is.
I knew it was a British TV character by the name Mr. Blobby, and then I saw the picture and I was like, of course this is. What else would it be?
That's fair. Fair.
Anyway, how do you want to do this?
I don't know. Because there's big chunks of the book where not very much happens.
I think we can just tear through those parts and get to the important parts, because you're right. Not much happens in this.
Until stuff suddenly starts happening, and then a lot of stuff happens really fast.
Yeah, I think we get through, cause like the gist is the gist, right? There's like the important things we need to talk about, right? Which is when they get not even, we don't even need to spend time on when they get face hugged or anything like that. It's more like once the aliens start aliening, you know, and the guy goes crazy and takes her back to the ship at the end, right? Or near the end. Like that's all the cool shit. That's the stuff worth talking about, right? The rest of this we can kind of rush through, I think. Introduce the crew, talk about what they found, talk about how the dude wakes up with a boner. They had to put that in the book for some reason.
Yeah, speaking of which, there's something that really, really made me laugh about this book. When the book starts, the first thing the main character says is he describes two things about the woman he's talking about. The first thing is how fuckable she is. The second thing is her foot size.
God, a feet again, man. Oh, what's his name?
He describes her as being extremely attractive, and he's had a crush on her for a long time. And then later on in the same sentence, he describes her as having very small feet and hands. And I was like, why? We don't fucking need to know this, dog.
Hold on.
Who gives a shit?
Hold on. Where's Bryce when you need him? Am I right? Okay. Got the name.
Got him.
Must be maybe Bryce is this guy's descendant.
But yeah, we're introduced to most of the main characters in the first chapter.
Sure.
But there's the captain, who's Corgan.
Daryl Corgan.
And then he's the captain, and then Science Officer Ashley Norton is the woman he's talking to at the beginning.
Real quick, we should say that we should name the ship, right? The ship is called the Hornblower.
The Hornblower, yes, that's correct.
Which I've heard used by people who are not funny as a blowjob joke.
That is also correct. Yeah, this book is okay. I was going to say this book is horny. This book is not horny. This book is sexual. There's a difference.
This book is like 14-year-olds like idea of
yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So because of other things in this book, I can't think that the name Hornblower of the ship is not meant to be a reference of that sort.
There is also a character introduced in chapter 1 whose name is Dix.
Sure, there is. There sure is.
In case you're wondering, who the character of what's his first name, Cyril Dix is, listeners, imagine if you're watching an action movie from 1994 that has a black guy in it. Mm-hmm. Picture in your mind the personality and the vocal styles and the way of talking that black guy has in that movie. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's Cyril Dix in this book. He is, quote, the black guy.
The black secondary maintenance engineer scowling over a rewiring job on deck 2. That's when we first meet him. Yep.
Yeah, when we meet him, the only thing we are told about him is, this guy is black.
Yeah.
And for like a couple of chapters, that's the only thing we know about him, folks.
Yes. All right. So where are we? So Corgan's been awoken, and Ashley has grabbed him, awoken by Ashley, who he's horny for, right? She's
that is correct. Yes.
Awoken Daryl Corgan, captain of the Hornblower, out of his slumber. Now, we don't hear about his boner now, but the next time she wakes him up, we do.
Yeah, I actually wrote down what chapter that's in. I believe it is in chapter 7, I want to say.
They make us wait 7 chapters to hear about that somehow.
Yeah.
And she's like, there's an anomaly. You got to come check this out. It's circling Saturn, right? It's circling Iapetus, the outermost moon of Saturn.
Yep. Yeah, they're stationed nearby, and they find this, as she says, anomaly floating outside the moon, and the anomaly turns out to be a gigantic spaceship in the shape of an egg, which, listeners, in case you're wondering, is the titular steel egg of the novel.
Yes.
Which I will admit, I thought, when I saw that, I kind of went, oh, that's kind of neat, because, when I heard the name Steel Egg, without knowing what it's referencing, like without having, being familiar with the contents of the book, I had assumed it was a reference to like a xenomorph egg that was like, fake or robotic or whatever. So finding out that it's like the Steel Egg is actually just a spaceship, I was like, oh, that's not what I was expecting. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So these guys, the Hornblower is a UNIC, United Nations Interplanetary Corps vessel, and they're like, we gotta check this thing out. We don't know if it's Chinese or not. Literally, what they say is that Chinese. We're not sure, right?
Yeah, that is correct, because they work for what is basically the UN, and like the other major political power that's not them is basically like a political organization that comprises of China and a few other countries in that area.
Yes.
So, yeah.
The Chinese Asian Nation Cooperative, the CANC.
Yeah, which is an acronym you will hear a lot because, spoiler alert, there is a character on board the ship who is a member of the CANC.
No way. Who would have seen that coming?
Well, they're not a member, they're just working for them, but that's beside the point. They think that the giant steel space egg might be Chinese, and then they're like, it's not Chinese, it's too high tech for that. And then that's when they start describing the tech that is on the ship, and that's when my eyes started to glaze over.
Yeah. Yep.
And then in chapter 2, we're introduced to another woman on the crew. And would you be surprised, Captain Corgan is horny for her too. We're told about Nurse Julie, and we're told that he had an affair with her. And she was described as, I believe, sweet and naive, and he hurt her really bad. And I was like, you can just remove that from the book entirely, my guy. We do not need to know that. Also, speaking of Nurse Julie, there is a line in chapter 6 that made me laugh out loud. One of the characters, the narration says, quote, "Julie was the nurse. They all called her Nurse Julie." Yeah, thanks, man. If Julie was the nurse, no wonder they'd call her that. Yeah, that is her name and the title.
That line was like something like the doctor was a robot, Julie was the nurse, or something like that. And they don't mean robot as like a synthetic, right? They mean like there's like actual robots on this ship, like
yeah.
Like Android,
not
like droids, I imagine.
Yeah, they're not APs. They're like straight, like they're not pretending or trying to be human. Yeah.
Yeah, something different. I don't think, unless there's something shows up in the second half of the book, there's not a single synthetic human in this book, right?
As far as I know, unless they pull an alien and eventually reveal a character to be one, but there has not been an android yet on the book as far as I know.
Yeah. Julie was the nurse. They all called her Nurse Julie.
It's like, yeah, man, I know. I would call her that too if you say Julie is the nurse. I got it.
Yeah. So
like they act like that's a nickname, and I was like, yeah, man, what else would you call her?
Oh man.
I've been laughing about that ever since I read it. Anyway, the other major thing that happens in chapter 2, there's actually two. One of them is they land on the egg and go inside. And by the way, they also, it's weird in there. Also, we're introduced to another character named Eli Reynolds.
Yeah. Right away.
He's a big, huge, gross, fat guy. In case anyone was wondering.
Right away, good feelings about this guy immediately.
Oh,
totally on board with him.
Oh yeah, he's a real honest and trustworthy guy, and everyone likes him. Everyone likes him so much, in fact, that even though he is the exobiologist and they were going onto an alien spaceship, they chose not to bring him along on purpose. I mean, he eventually did end up finding out they were going and forced his way onto the landing party. But their intention was to not bring the exobiologist onto the alien spaceship because of how much they liked him and got along with him, which, by the way, is a lot and very well.
Yeah, he sucks. He just sucks right away. He sucks.
He sucks ass, dude. He's so terrible. He's awful. Easily the worst character in the book. And it's I was like, okay, if I didn't already know there were xenomorphs in this book, Reynolds would obviously be the antagonist of the book. Then I remembered that every single alien story has a xenomorph and a human enemy, and I go, oh yeah, that's right. So he is just the enemy of the book. Okay, got it.
He's this book's one of those guys. He's but he's so over the top silly.
He sure is.
It's it feels like fan fiction. This whole, you know what? This fucking book, this book feels like fan fiction. Even the writing style at times feels like fan fiction to me. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah,
it's all caricatures and archetypes. It's just there's no nuance. I'm sorry, I'm getting
there's the evil rude guy, there's the hot chick, there's the black guy, there's the horny guy,
and that's it. That is their entire personalities. Is that there's nothing else to any of them under the surface.
Everyone else that's not Ashley, Daryl, Eli, or maybe Julie, everyone else in the book doesn't even really get a personality. Yeah. They're given a visual description, and then you just assume what kind of person they're like based on what they look like.
Yeah. I don't even know who they are.
This book has 15 or 16 characters, depending on where in the book you are.
Yes.
And all but 4 of them aren't really given a personality.
Yeah. I hate to be critical of it at this stage because we're so early on. And there's stuff in this book that I genuinely enjoy. So hang on, everybody. I'm sorry.
There is. That's true.
Hang on.
And the first thing that happens in this book that I liked actually happens here in chapter 3. This is where the just the technobabble descriptions really kick into overdrive. Yeah. This section of the book, chapters 3 and 4 mainly, are the ones where I truly couldn't even understand what John Shirley was trying to describe. I literally just couldn't even picture it in my head. However, in chapter 3, something cool does happen. They come across a computer that shows a looping, repeating video of one of the aliens on the ship that I mentioned earlier that look like a weird Mr. Blobby. They're called the GIF with 2 Fs.
Yes.
And it's a video of one of them talking, but of course they don't understand. And then that video gets replaced by a xenomorph killing a GIF, and then that GIF giving birth to a chest burster.
Yes.
And I was like, that's kind of cool.
Do you, I believe it's pronounced GIF. I'm kidding. It is specifically pronounced GIF because that's a sound that these alien creatures keep making, apparently. GIFF.
Yeah, the way
So
he describes it is they make a sound that sounds like GIF every time they like reference themselves, and so he's like, "Oh, I'm just going to call them the GIF."
Right.
Also, chapter 3 is when we find out that surprise, Reynolds is working for the CANC.
Yeah. I like that they found, because they were like picking up a signal from this ship, and then they find this video thing, and they're like, oh shit, I think this video was looping here as like a warning to stay off this ship.
MFs love to pick up a signal in the Alien franchise, don't they?
They really do. Well, let's keep
They love
exploring.
picking up a damn signal. All right, yeah, so they keep going.
This is also where they picked up those diamond flyer things, which they used to navigate this ship, which is like hoverboards, basically.
They're zipping around on those things a whole lot in this book, in this section of the book.
They can fly up and down because the ship is basically large rooms. Like there's not really hallways. It's just like a series of large rooms.
Yeah, they're described literally as cavernous at one point. So it's literally just gigantic open air spaces that are connected to each other by big doorways. At one point, one of the characters, it might even be Daryl, I don't remember, but is like, if you were to go into an office building made by humans, it would be a giant room that's broken into dozens of smaller rooms with hallways interlacing them.
Yeah.
In this, they took the giant room and then just left it like that. And I was like, okay, cool. I got it.
But they do have like cubicles almost. They have like workstations with flat screen monitors and stuff, which in my head, I just pictured as workstations with flat screen monitors. I just okay, like
yeah, it's like what are those called? Open plan cubicles or whatever, where you have individual workspaces, but they're not walled off from each other. That's what I was picturing.
Dell monitors,
an open plan office.
yeah, man. Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, remember that GIF in chapter 3 that got killed by a xenomorph?
I do.
Well, in chapter 4, we find that exact corpse. We find the corpse of the GIF that got killed in that video.
Yeah.
And so that made me go, why did we have to see the video then, I wonder?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Like, narratively speaking, why did we need the video then?
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, they find a big shaft in the floor, and by find a big shaft in the floor, I mean they find a remote control that when they hit a button on it, it just opens a huge hole in the floor.
Yeah, it turns out there's hidden doorways and stuff in the floors, which because they have these floating platform flyers, they can move vertically through these and up and down through these things. So now at least we have some interesting geography. And we can understand how xenomorphs can be scampering around this place because there's hidden passages and corridors that go vertically instead of horizontally. Yeah. That was the first idea that I got. Like, okay, this is now getting kind of interesting because when it was just big giant rooms, I was like, I don't get it. But now I'm like getting on board, and it's still, I don't know, still feels weird. But it's also feels kind of cool and different until they just go down the cave and they find it's just alien. It's just xenomorph eggs.
Yeah, they find the xenomorph nursery, and then Cruz gets face hugged. Listeners, you might be wondering who Cruz is.
Just a guy.
My answer to you is, who cares?
One of the guys. It's not Gabriel Cruz.
It is Emmanuel Cruz. It's who is Cruz? He's some fucking guy. That's who he is.
He's one of the crew members of the Hornblower.
That's right. Cruz gets face hugged, and then chapter 5 starts off with 2 more crew members, Collindale and Beresford, also getting face hugged.
Yeah,
and
a bunch of fucking dumb shits. Okay.
Then Reynolds whines a whole bunch more because that's all he fucking does in this book.
He sucks,
and then
dude.
Corgan, the captain, goes, oh no, 3 of these dudes have some kind of parasite on them. And so he loads them onto the ship or brings them back to the ship, I should say.
Yeah.
And once they get back to the Hornblower, we are introduced to the 16th member of the crew, Buxton, who the reason I'm pointing this out now is because earlier on in the book, we were given a list of 15 crew members. And when we were given that list, at the end of the list, the narration told us that was every crew member on the ship.
There were 15.
And then suddenly, 3 chapters later, a 16th guy just kind of shows up.
Just been there the whole time. Good old Buxton.
Good old Buxton.
Yes.
He's actually not seen on screen until chapter 6. But like when he loads up the 3 dudes to take them back to the ship, he like radios back and he's like, get some such person and Buxton prepped to receive the 3 people that are coming in. And that's like the second to last line of the chapter. But then in like the second paragraph of chapter 6 is when we see Buxton on screen for the first time. And it's extremely funny because the way it's described, let's see. Oh, no, sorry. This happens in chapter 7, not chapter 6. But there is a scene in chapter 7 where I even wrote in my notes, here we see Buxton for the first time on screen, as it were. And apparently there are 2 Buxtons, because at the beginning of the chapter, Buxton is standing there with Nate talking when the captain comes in. And then during that conversation, Chang and Hess come in with Buxton and join the conversation that the 3 of them were already having.
I have a theory about this.
All right.
I have a thing because there's a Beresford also.
There is, yes.
And I have a feeling at some point while writing this, he split Beresford into 2 characters, and didn't find and replace maybe all of the. So there were still some references to. I don't know why I think it's Beresford, other than because it's also a name that starts with a B, right?
A B, yeah.
But like,
yeah,
there were
because
maybe
Beresford is one of the. Yeah. Beresford is one of the 3 people that initially got face hugged. And so maybe he was like, oh, I want to have him around longer. And then so he's like, let's just call him Buxton now.
Right. Yeah. So that doesn't explain maybe why it would be Beresford, why he has them in 2 locations when they're coming back to the ship. But I just thought maybe he split it off from another character because he realized he needed another one and just forgot to change that one little spot in the novel there. In any case, I don't know. He was too busy working on his Creed rock opera to really take this seriously, I guess.
There are a couple of things that I wanted to point out to you that caught my attention that I thought was interesting and I wanted to discuss with you.
Yeah.
At one point, when like after the 3 of them get face hugged and like, they're investigating the 3 of them, like investigating the face huggers, like on the ship. At one point they mentioned that the acid doesn't harm the organism. Is that true?
I would,
like, have they established previously in other pieces of alien media that xenomorphs do not get harmed by their own acid?
Yes.
Okay. So that isn't necessarily something he invented. Okay, got it.
No, you see it in Alien Resurrection when they are destroying the one xenomorph to have him melt, through the floor so they can all escape.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I forgot about that scene. That's right. Yeah.
You also see it in Alien versus Predator when, in the comics also, when the Predator makes armor out of xenomorph, like carcass shell, like to protect the human, because the acid won't penetrate. Like, so yeah,
got it. Okay.
Yeah, the acid won't harm xenomorph.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't pointing that out because I thought it was like a flaw. I was genuinely curious if that was something that had already been established.
I'm sure there's other spots too where it happens. I always kind of thought, because like when you pop the ovomorphs in any of the video games, it looks like acid comes out. So I always kind of imagined like there's just some acid sort of floating inside the ovomorphs as well.
Yeah, that's probably true because like I was going to say it's implied, but I don't think it's implied. I think it's directly stated that it's not actually acid. It literally just is their blood. So.
Yeah. Yes. And just has this acidic quality to it.
The other thing that I noticed that I thought was kind of interesting is when they're investigating the face hugger, like later on, I think it's in the next chapter after that.
Yeah.
Who I think it's Julie maybe that's investigating. I don't remember, but somebody notices that the face hugger, as it's in the process of impregnating someone, the face hugger itself is losing mass and withering away.
I highlighted that too.
I don't recall ever being mentioned in a alien thing before, but I thought that was a cool idea.
I think that's really interesting because it I don't know how that ties with it implanting, like if it is just straight up implanting an embryo, as Jonathan Hickman describes it in Aliens versus Avengers, or if it is depositing the material that would grow one, more of like the route that things seem to be going now in the this could be like a precursor to that. That is a very cool. I marked that down as well. I actually meant to message our friend Synth Norbert about that. So maybe we can have another discussion about that on our part 2 episode. Because I know he is much more versed in the Plagiaris Praepotens and all of that than either of us are, and how that. So maybe this is more in line. I think he's read
all of the novels multiple times, so he probably would know the answer to that question.
Yeah, and I've only read the first Alex White novel once, and I forget which one it is. I think Into Charybdis.
I believe so, yeah.
So maybe this is an early version of that, or this is in line at least with that kind of that idea, that concept. You know what I'm trying to say.
I do.
So correct me if I'm wrong though. When they're going down the chute and they find the xenomorph nursery, as you call it, the ovomorph nursery. Remind me, there's blue mist lining these walls, isn't there?
Not only is there blue mist, it gets called out like 4 separate times of characters looking around going, where's all this weird mist coming from? And I was like, yeah, man, I didn't forget. Don't worry.
And then and it is like when they they get too close to the ovos that they open, right?
Yeah.
And doesn't one of them just like sort of trip and fall? Just like a dumbass and get face hugged.
I think so. I think that's how not Cruz. I don't think it's Cruz that trips and falls. I think it's one of the other characters, either Collindale or Beresford. They do like straight up like trip and land face first into an open ovomorph.
That's right. Like a dumbass. But like they like kind of essentially sort of break the mist, I think. Isn't that the way it goes?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't recall how specifically or explicitly they point that out in the narrative, but there is a scene where as they're descending into it, they notice all of the blue electric mist swirling around.
Sorry, I just I think I'm on chapter 4. I got chapter 4 open here. And I'm looking at the part where Reynolds after he sent the drone, right? Yeah, because listeners, since he's a member or since he's working for the CANC, his job is to basically they hired him to figure out what's on that ship, let them know, and then have them come in and swoop in and take all of it before his ship can. And he messages them by going in there and investigating, and then going outside and firing off a little drone that flies through space over to the CANC ship. Yeah, they're going to track the signal back because they didn't know where it was either. They needed him to locate and confirm his location.
That's why they needed him in the first place, because they were like, your ship is going to be in that area and you'll find it, so you'll be able to tell us where it is.
And he talks all about he's going to get like everything, like how all the stuff he deserves. Here it is. Well, now he would get his Nobel Prize for biology. He would have his best-selling ebook. He would have his chair at Harvard. Best-selling ebook was going to be my designation. Best-selling ebook author was going to be my designation. I totally forgot.
It's very good.
I had it highlighted specifically for that.
have a best-selling ebook is an extremely funny sentence.
Such a 2007 like concept of the future line.
Yeah. Yeah, what's the future going to be? Best-selling ebooks. That's what it's going to be.
And here's the line.
A technology that exists now will be the dominant technology in the future. Yes.
I have a feeling they'll just call them books in the future, my man. His CANC partners had promised that his part in their plan would be concealed when the time came. Now it says Cruz lowered himself into the mist to stand close beside the leathery sacks, and Cruz reached out, his hand breaking the mist, his fingers prodding curiously at the membrane, the veined living membrane, gross, which suddenly split wide, opened up, and spat something at his face. That's when Cruz broke the mist and got.
All right, there we go.
Yep.
Also, there is a scene in chapter 6 where we get a big flashback section detailing exactly we see the meeting between Reynolds and the CANC officer that gets him to work for them. And here's the thing, man, Reynolds has already been established as a bad guy. He's already been established as,
Sucking
unsympathetic, unlikable. And so the thing of it is the scene where we actually see him turn traitor. I don't give a fuck since we already didn't like him anyway.
Yeah.
All the scene did is just make me dislike him even more. So I was like, you didn't even need to tell me this. It didn't give me any information I didn't already know, because we already know he works for them. So knowing the details of the meeting doesn't really change anything. Although there is one point where he realizes he is utterly disposable to them, which LOL.
Right, I know.
What did he think was going to happen, dog?
So then he's got this obsession with how is he going to make sure that they need him still, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to be that whole thing. He becomes obsessed with trying to figure out a way to basically ensure that the CANC doesn't kill him, because what they've said is that they're going to swoop in and either knock out or capture everyone on the crew other than him, and they'll let him go. And he's like, oh, excellent. And then now that he's actually there on the hornblower doing it, he goes, oh no, they were probably lying to me, and they'll probably capture me just like they are going to the rest of the crew. And then he stops and goes, oh no, that was probably also a lie. They'll probably just kill all of us. How do I prove my worth?
And I was like, and I was like, thanks, dog. Good call.
I know. There was no creating any sympathy for him at all. I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm. Then the book does something, not immediately after that, but at some point in chapter 7, the book does something that I have gone on record before as not liking when alien media, especially novels, does.
Yeah.
We get a detailed 2-page long description of exactly biologically how facehuggers and chestbursters work.
Yes.
And we see the characters finding this shit out in real time. And it's like, it is an Alien novel. No one that hasn't seen Alien would be reading this. We already know that you can just get rid of all of this.
Yes. To your point, yes. But counterpoint. Who is it? Which one is it here? I've got it highlighted. Let me find it. Is it?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Barry, Berry.
Barry.
The third guy who gets face hugged, right?
Oh, Beresford. Yeah, Ali Beresford. Yes.
Yeah, because it's Cruz and then
Cruz, Beresford, and Collindale,
and then Beresford. Okay. To your point, we know how it works. Let's get over it. But I believe in one of the previous episodes, I have said I would like to hear someone write or see the experience of what it's like to be face hugged, like first person, essentially.
We do get that,
and we get that in here. And this is something that I really like, because this guy had to, as far as I know. John Shirley had to kind of invent this. Maybe this has been done in other novels. There are most of the novels I have not read, right? And maybe I've read this in a novel already and forgotten it. But I like this in any way, okay, where he talks about the pain was beyond any he'd ever felt, but worse was the feeling of violation. It seemed to go on, but then a soothing warmth spread from his lungs, bringing with it a pregnant darkness. Then the last thing he heard before he lost consciousness completely was Collindale screaming, get it off me, get it off. It's climbing up me. And then a gagging sound and nothing more, just the warm darkness that went on and on. I like that we got the perspective of the person who this is happening to. I don't feel like we get that very often, if at all. We get the description way too often of the rest of this shit. Yeah, we get it every time, and it's always the same.
Every time.
There's no new way to describe what a facehugger is doing and what a chest burster is going to do. There's no new way to do it, right?
We know how it works. Like biologically, I get that it doesn't make sense, like in a body horror way. Like biologically, it's supposed to be freaky, and them finding this out is supposed to be like a moment of like scariness because they're like, oh my God, what the fuck is this? But it's like, they're not real people, and these things are not really happening. It is an alien novel that is being read by someone who has already seen the Aliens movies. And it's like, we already know, man. Like you're telling us this when the target audience would already know this.
Yeah, but I get as an author, you're writing you can't just be like, and then the facehugger grabbed the guy. You can't just do that.
Yeah.
You got to do something. So I understand it's a necessity, and I appreciate John Shirley in this moment doing it in an unconventional way. I liked that. And I think when we get to the other parts of the alien stuff, he does it in some fairly original ways as well also. And I think that's the trick a little bit, is like you can't describe the action of it differently, but you can describe the perspective of it and maybe the environment in which it's happening.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I think that this is better than other versions that we've had.
Yeah, I will say that right around here is when the book started to pick up.
Same, yeah. This is where,
right around chapter 7, chapter 8, right around there. So, like, like a third of the way through the book total, something like that.
Yes, I mean, basically. Not too far in. I mean, this book didn't really fuck around.
It started in the second half of what we read. So it would be like, 25-30% of the way through the book, something like that. But like, this is around where it started to pick up, which I gotta say, for a piece of alien media, not bad. Because if you recall that in the first Alien movie, the chest bursting scene happens halfway through the movie.
Right.
And in this book, like 25% of the way through it, we already have like face huggers and chest bursters and stuff. So like, even though it feels like it's taking forever while you're reading it, because you have to go through a bunch of technobabble to get there, like it's actually pretty swift when it comes to the book as a whole.
I think through chapter 12 was a pretty accurate 50%. And yeah, we've already got Xenomorphs on the loose.
Around there, yeah.
We got Xenomorphs on the loose by then, by the end of this section.
So, the next major thing that happens is that 3 people, Nate, who is Nate Eusebius, who is first lieutenant, Doria, who is Doria Rondell, second lieutenant, and our main man, Harl Buxton, engineer. The 3 of them get sent down. Yeah, that's right. Buxton's first name is Harl, folks.
Buxton.
Harl Buxton. The 3 of them get sent down with makeshift flamethrowers to torch all of the eggs that they found earlier.
Yeah, they had to. He had to make these things. Like, I don't know. He's literally like, I think it's going to work. I tested it once.
Nate gets a face hugger on his helmet, but he takes the helmet off and torches it before it gets to him. And then while they're doing that, a second group of people who I didn't not write down who that group of people were, get sent down to a different part of the ship. And they're flying around on the Diamond Flyers, and they find a bunch of goop, which they I think they say they think it's like old, like, nutritional food paste or something like that. Anyway, Reynolds stays behind to study this goop.
Yeah.
They head into the next room, and then they find what seems to be crew quarters, because there's like a whole bunch of like, indents in the wall that seem to be like where beds were.
Yes.
And a whole bunch of them are just filled with dead GIF corpses.
Yeah. They found all the bodies.
Also, I don't remember exactly how it happens. I think it's just normal chestburster stuff, but the chapter ends with Cruz dying, so R.I.P. Cruz. And this is where the book really picks up, because the next like 3 chapters I thought all ruled.
Before we get into this, I want to file a complaint with the crew of the Hornblower.
All right.
For being dumbasses.
They are huge dumbasses. That's correct. Yes.
All right. So they have gone onto this steel egg.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing they see is video of an alien creature busting out of a chest of a human being. Not a human being. Busting out of a chest.
Of a GIF.
Of a GIF. Right.
Yep.
They then go down a little cavern where 3 of their people get face parasites, right? Mm-hmm. They drag those people back to their ship and put them in quarantine, where Nurse Julie confirms that this thing, they use this term, has put an ovipositor down into their chest and is losing mass into them. And I believe
she straight up says, I believe she straight up says at one point something to the effect of, I believe they're implanting something in them.
I'm not sure she does that, because she does say once they burst, and I highlighted this because she does say once they do pop that she wasn't able, they didn't show up in the scans. But maybe she scanned.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yep. Okay.
And the reason I highlighted that is because of that line from the Alien illustrated story. That scene where they were like, hey, why didn't that show up in your scans, And I was like, well, maybe they just don't show up in the scans, Anyway.
Yeah, maybe they don't. Who knows?
But they were not able to put 2 and 2 together.
They apparently sure weren't. That's correct.
And then they just, why didn't they at least then take those 3 people and be like, okay, I'm sorry, guys. Now that we know what these things are doing, or they were still fucking unconscious. They're like, we got to take them back let's put them back on board this thing. So at least if they do, pop, they're not on our ship.
Yeah.
Like it's just fucking just stupid. Like, it was so stupid. I was like, this doesn't even feel realistic to write. Like, this feels idiotic, even for people in an alien story, Anyway.
And also, folks, like I said, R.I.P. Cruz, he gets chest bursted. And just like in the scene when Kane gets chest bursted in Alien, wouldn't you know, they get so surprised by the thing that comes out of his chest that they're not able to stop the thing from skittering away and escaping into the vents. That one place that they absolutely just love to live inside of.
Why?
They can't get enough of it. It is their natural habitat, is vents.
The answer is to just stop building vents into spaceships.
That's correct. Then we go to chapter 9, where there is an absolutely insane scene that is easily my favorite moment so far in the book.
I knew you would love this, man. This goes crazy.
It fucking rules. Beresford sees Cruz die and goes absolutely psychotic.
Yeah.
And picks up a scalpel, slices his own chest open, and then sticks his hand into the open wound and pulls the chest burster out of him, tries to slam the chest burster head first onto a table, but it writhes around and bites him so hard it bites his hand off.
Yes.
And then the guy dies anyway from blood loss.
You heard that right, folks. This guy is absolutely fucking losing it. I mean, think about what just happened. They just saw they've been in quarantine for I think a couple days now at this point.
Something like that, yeah, at least a day.
They're going crazy. They just watched this thing pop out of Cruz, this guy who had the exact same thing happen to him. Cruz, by the way, his face had been burned with acid when they had tried to like cut the thing off, right? It had like been burned down to his bone. He'd like lost an ear.
Yeah, that's how they found out the thing has acid in it when they tried to cut one of the legs off, and it like burned like a third of his face off. Yeah.
So they're just like sitting there hanging out, and this thing busts out of his chest and he dies and it runs away. And they just like look down at their own stomachs and they're like, this is going to happen to us now. Dude loses it and performs surgery on himself.
On himself. It is insane. I was reading this going, oh my God, this is so fucking cool.
That was wild.
Like it is again, like you were pointing out earlier, like when we saw the perspective of him getting the face hugger, it's cool because it's something we haven't seen before.
I don't know that I want to see it. I don't know that I would want to see it in a movie. I don't know how feasible it is. I mean, I guess if they had doped him up with enough drugs, maybe.
Well, see, that's part of what made it so cool to me is because he was doing it not under any anesthetic. Like he was literally slicing himself open and in insane mind melting pain, but he was like, this thing is going to kill me if I don't get it out right now, no matter what. And so he just powered his ass through it. And I was like, God, that's so fucking cool, dog.
Do you remember hearing a thing
and then,
about like the people's aggression increasing when they have xenomorphs inside them? Like, I know that was kind of the implied thing that was going on with the guy in Alien Resurrection, the section of the franchise we spent the most time on in this podcast.
Easily, yes.
Yeah, you know, the guy who they brought with them, and he like absolutely goes nuts.
Yeah,
you know.
the nerd guy whose name I don't recall off the top of my head.
Yeah, yes. Wiener. What's
Purvis?
Sure, that seems like his name.
I think it was like Purvis or something like that.
Are there other examples of that? And is that what this is kind of trying to mirror? Because the same thing is about to happen to Collinsdale, because he is, I mean, also going crazy in his own way with this, right?
Yeah, because that's one thing that they do note is that Beresford and Collindale both start freaking out and screaming about how they can feel it in their chest. It's about to pop out. They can feel it writhing around. It needs to get out right now. And so Beresford pulls, emergency surgery on himself. Collindale, meanwhile, takes a different tack.
Yeah.
Collindale freaks the fuck out, just like Beresford did, attacks a few people, and then escapes into the bowels of the ship with a gun.
Yeah, he steals a gun, he runs off, and he hides. We got two young Xenos escaped into the vents, right?
Yep, we sure do.
We got Collindale ready to pop, running around.
Yeah, because that's one thing that I do want to specify. Like I said, the one that was in Beresford, he pulled it out and tried to slam it on a table, but it bit his hand off before he was able to do it. So it did survive and scurry off into the darkness. So yeah, like Neil said, now there's two of them running around.
Well, let's check back in with him because we still got people hanging out on the Big Egg, right?
We sure do.
Or do you just want to go just... Yeah, because they switch places, don't they?
We come across that classic thing we love to see in alien stories where a whole bunch of people are resined to a wall.
Right. They find
I don't really know like what you call that, like if the like what the terminology for that is. Like, would it be like the nest, the harvesting room? Like, what would you call that? But anyway, they find that room.
I typically call it the nest, right?
All right, the nest is fine.
Hey, if you know what it should be called, mother@crewexpendable.net.
That's right. Then while they're there, they get a message from the hornblower saying that 2 people are dead, and Collindale freaked out and took Nurse Julie hostage. And so they go, okay. And they get back on and fly back to the hornblower. And as soon as they land on the hornblower and go into the ship, Collindale, who has Julie hostage, gets on the lander and flies back to not just the egg, but to literally the same room those guys were just in.
Yeah.
Well, because he goes to like the crew quarters area where all the corpses were, and basically sets up in one of the ones higher up near the ceiling, and basically forces Julie by pointing a gun at her to do emergency surgery on him to remove the chest burster.
So before he did all this, before he grabbed Nurse Julie, he was hiding out and he was thinking about like, I got to get this thing out of me. I can't do my own surgery. It didn't work so well for the last guy who tried it. I got to steal Julie. She can do this. Maybe she can do. He kept talking about like maybe chemotherapy could destroy all the bad germs inside me. Maybe she can do that. Maybe this or that. You know. Yeah. This was giving me flashbacks to Prometheus, to the med pod, right? To the like trying
pod, hell yeah.
The just trying to figure out what procedure she could do to get rid of the invasive parasite inside her. Obviously, it went a different route, but
yep.
So then he gets back into the nurse's office. I'll call it the med bay.
Yep.
And he at gunpoint forces her to like steal all the stuff, like to take all the stuff that he would need, like morphine and this and that and all the stuff she would need to like try to perform this operation, and then get on the other lander with him to go down there. And then to like throw them off course once they land, he then sends the lander off. So now they're going to be short a lander. That's an important plot point, I think.
And also, I may have just missed this explanation, but like, why did he need to go to the steel egg to have her do the surgery? All that does is eat up a bunch of time that he doesn't have.
Yeah, it's this. They say something that's been like an hour at this point. I don't know why his is taking longer, except that maybe is his a queen? I don't remember.
Okay, I know that one of them turns out to be a queen, but I don't know which one it is.
I believe it's his, honestly. People.
But yeah, like I don't recall the novel ever giving a reason why he felt the need to go to the steel egg to have her do the surgery. Like the only thing I can think of is that if he's not on the ship, then the people on the ship won't discover him doing it. But
this is why I was asking.
To me, that doesn't seem like a good enough reason, because like all the time it takes to fly over to the egg, it's like he knows he's on a time limit. You don't have that kind of time, dog.
I hate if I'm going to make an assumption here, and if the novel has directly gone against this and I've missed it. I apologize.
We're allowed to be wrong.
We're allowed to be wrong.
Yeah, we're allowed to be wrong. It's fine.
We take polite corrections in our emails, mother@crewexpendable.net, or our YouTube comments, etc. You guys know. You guys are cool.
Yeah.
This is why I was asking if like having the xenomorph in you kind of makes you go nuts or like influences behavior, right? What if this is somehow the xenomorph trying to guide him back to the hive?
Could be. All right. I mean, that's more of an explanation than I recall the book ever getting, so I'm fine with it.
I think in the book he was just basically like, I need time and space for her to do this, and we can't hide out here anywhere long enough for her to finish the procedure. And I've already gone nuts and attacked people and held her at gunpoint, so like we can't just like be chill about doing this in the med bay. Right.
Yeah, I think there's even a point where like later on, like after they get to the egg, he's like, like one of them is like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. And then they're like, yeah, we shouldn't have done that. Like it was a mistake for me to hold you hostage.
Yeah.
I should have just like asked you to do it. And she's like, yeah, if you had just asked, I would have done it. The reason I'm pissed off is because you forced me to, when all you had to do was ask and I would have said yes. All right.
Yeah. I think that's the base explanation. The actual reason might be John Shirley just needed to get them back on the ship somehow, right?
Yep.
But
also, go ahead.
Don't we also get a scene in here where we find out that the chest bursters have been like scavenging food already and eating people?
They sure have. That's actually the next scene I was going to mention. There's also a scene where Cyril Dix comes back and he is hanging out with his friend Bayfield, whose name is Don Bayfield, and he is the only character in the book that as per my notes, again, it might be in the book and I just missed it, but I don't think he's ever given like a title or a designation or a rank. He's just in there as part of the crew. He has one defining character trait. Mm-hmm. Neil, do you remember what that defining character trait is?
I do. I honestly don't.
He's a drunk.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
He's the guy. He's the guy that's constantly drunk all the time, and he like makes his own alcohol by like fermenting fruit and stuff.
He's the moonshine. He's talking. Yeah, he's making like.
Yeah, he makes his own moonshine, and Dix and Bayfield, yeah, that's his name, are hanging out because Bayfield's like, man, Cyril, look, I made this primo shit. You gotta fucking check it out. It's off over in the kitchen area. And so they like go off over into the kitchen area. Pretty much, yeah. And they go off into the kitchen and they find that something has eaten huge chunks of all of the like raw frozen meat that they had on the ship. And they were like, huh? And then they get attacked by an adolescent, still growing chest burster, and it literally rips off Bayfield's face.
That's right.
Like when I say it rips his face off, I don't mean like it, like tears a chunk of his face off. I mean like they literally say, it literally like it rips out like one of his ears, all of the skin on like one half of his face, his nose, one of his eyes, his entire jaw, like his entire face literally gets ripped off.
Yeah, man. Oof.
So R.I.P. Bayfield.
Yeah, R.I.P. guy we didn't know was in the book until just now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Maybe when there was two Buxtons, one of them was supposed to be Bayfield earlier. That would make more sense.
Could be, maybe. Because he, like I said, he gets one character trait. He's a drunk. And he was mentioned like a couple of times earlier in the book. But I think this is like maybe the second time we've actually seen him on screen at this point in the book.
We've also got...
Anyway, this is... go ahead.
Sorry. Also, at some point here, Corgan's made his only like good decision, right? Which is to have the entire crew like sleep up in the main deck, right? No more crew quarters. Everyone sleeps together in the same area. They all drag cots out. Yep.
That actually in where we are right now in the book, the section of it we're discussing, that hasn't happened yet, but it's about to.
I thought it was happening. I guess no, because I was like, when did they talk about his boner? But that was when he was trying to get some sleep after the chest bursters had escaped and blah blah blah.
Yeah, his boner was earlier.
Right, and
right now,
if you guys were interested, Ashley took notice and blushed, and he saw that, and clearly she wants him.
She did. She got embarrassed, and it's implied a little turned on.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is the point in the book where Julie actually does the emergency surgery on Collindale.
John Shirley understands women.
It says here, according to my notes, let's see, the group figures out where Collindale went, and Hess and Nate are the two that leave to bring Julie back, because one of them, Nate, I think, used to date Julie,
Right.
and they were in like a serious long-term relationship, but she wanted kids and he didn't, so they broke up, and then he's regretted it and still been in love with her this entire time.
Yeah.
And even at one point was like, man, I should have just fucking married her.
Man, you fucked up.
And so the two of them fly off to go bring Julie back. And then it cuts to the two of them and she does the surgery, but the chest burster starts coming out right as she cuts into him.
Yes.
And it's implied this is on purpose. Like it's implied
Right.
that like the alien knew that it was about to get extracted. And so it came out earlier than it had planned because it was like, oh no, it's now or never.
Yeah. Was he trying to like, he was thinking about cutting it open and like the thing wouldn't let him? Or was that the other guy?
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head, but yes, listeners, Neil is correct. There was a scene earlier where one of the two of them was holding the scalpel and like holding it against them, and like their body was physically resisting them because the alien was forcing them not to. But yeah, I don't remember which one of the two of them it is, but I do remember that did happen. Yes.
Largely our bodies are gonna resist us slicing our bellies open anyway. But
that's true. But
in the book, it was implied
yeah.
it was that the xenomorph wasn't letting them. So there was like some kind of a like mixing of muscle control or something there, which I think also leads into this idea that maybe this xenomorph was sort of trying to drag him back. But that's a lot of
that's something where
it would have to have a lot of like mental control over him to guide him back to the hive or something, right?
That explanation, there is nothing in the book that specifically contradicts it, but there's also nothing in the book that even kind of implies that's what's going on. It's just these things happen and you could go, maybe that might be an explanation for why. But anyway, she does the surgery, the xenomorph comes out and literally caves her skull in, killing her.
Just immediately.
And then Collindale gets so surprised that he falls out of the crew quarter bed. And then this is where it becomes important that he, for some reason, picked one of the ones high up, because the fall is so far that he lands onto the middle of a pipe and breaks his spine in half, paralyzing him from the waist down. And so he is lying there helpless. And the chest burster that just came out of him comes up to him and starts eating him head first.
Yeah, that's right. Eating him head first.
Yeah.
Really?
Really. And then chapter 12 starts off with the scene, which, by the way, is the last chapter we read today. Chapter 12 starts off with the scene you mentioned earlier, where Corgan is like, all right, fuck it. Everyone's sleeping in the bridge now.
That's it. The bridge. That's the word I was looking for. Yes. Yeah, we're going to get cots up there. We're all sleeping up there. It's the easiest to protect. There's only the one in and out, And then we'll track these things and try to kill them in parties or something, right?
He basically decides that they're going to go out and do another search for the two chest bursters, the two xenomorphs that they are aware of that exists on the ship, which, to be fair, as of right now, there is only two, because the third one is now on the egg.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's putting together search parties to go search for those two. Yes.
So we missed this. One of the, I guess it was when it was the adolescent maybe that had been eating the stuff in the kitchen, or maybe it was the one. Yeah, it was the adolescent did get hit. One of them got hit with a bullet in the kitchen. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it was that one. Yeah.
So they have been able to kind of track these things. They've been finding like acid, like small acid burns, nothing that would like burn through the hull of the ship, but like little acid burns here and there. Mm-hmm. They also found, I highlighted this, a lump that might have been alien scat with a human tooth in it. So, John, Shirley,
I do I don't recall that happening. I must have accidentally skipped over that sentence. That's very funny.
Really? Because the sight of that made Dinswood throw up again. Dinswood's a character in this who threw up when he found the alien poop. John Shirley, this was a thing in his author's note at the beginning that he also wanted to talk about how he wanted to decide that the xenomorphs eat. And that so he introduced this sort of intermediary cycle where there's these adolescent xenomorphs, which we saw in Sea of Sorrows, River of Pain, Sea of Sorrows, I believe.
Sea of Sorrows was the resurrection
Yes.
one. River of Pain is the aliens one.
Yeah, we saw an adolescent in Sea of Sorrows, like when a truck blew up or something, when one of the groups was trying to get out of the mines. But John Shirley was kind of like introduced this adolescent form that then eats all this food, like it, to grow into the full-grown xenomorph. So he's like, well, they got to eat something, and so I guess if they're going to eat all this stuff, they're also going to poop, and they're going to poop everything they eat, including human teeth. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, it did eat someone's face after all, so
yeah,
there would be teeth in there.
Yeah. Anyway, so
there's that.
How do we recover from alien scat? Ugh.
We talk about another huge piece of shit, Eli Reynolds. That's how.
Yeah, because he's
he's in the process of figuring out how he's going to disable the Hornblower's scanners so the CANC ship that's just out of range can come in. But he's like, well, if I disable the scanners, though, they'll know it's me because someone, I think it's Nate, is on the radio being like, listen here, you big fucking stupid piece of shit. Where the fuck are you? Get on the radio and show up on the bridge like the fucking captain told you to.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't respond because if he does, they will get a record on the ship's computer of where he's radioing in from.
Right.
And so they'll see that he's in like the electronics bay and figure out that it was him when the scanners go down. So he's just dicking around trying to figure out how to do it, but he's not like an electronics guy. And so he's just kind of pushing random buttons.
He's cutting wires randomly.
Yeah. And then something happens that is extremely insane that I did not see coming at all. He pulls out a bottle of xenomorph pheromones and just starts squirting it around the room.
He's an exobiologist. He extracted this somehow. Apparently, this is.
I just didn't think that was going to happen in this book. Like, I never thought that xenomorph pheromones would become a plot point in an alien book. So when I saw that, I was like, are you fucking for real right now?
I know, he's taking big swings. I can't. In the same chapter that we get alien scat, we get we get xenomorph pheromones. Apparently, this is a typo. He says he extracted it from a chest burster. Later on, they clarify he extracted it from a face hugger, which he did have access to. He did not have access to the chest bursters, obviously.
That's true,
right.
Yes.
So,
but yeah, basically the idea is that he puts a couple of drops of it on something, and then the smell of it is something that only a xenomorph can detect, and it kind of summons them to the location of wherever it was that he put it. And so this might be something that I'm just misremembering. I'm not necessarily saying this said this in the book. This might be me misunderstanding or misremembering what happened. But I seem to recall his plan is that he is worried that the CANC is going to kill him when they show up. So his plan is to get a bunch of xenomorphs to show up on this location so that when the other people, like when the scanners get disabled, they'll come to the electronics bay. But the pheromones are there, so the xenomorphs will show up and kill all of those people. And so that way, if he kills the crew of the Hornblower, he's like, oh, they won't have any reason to kill me then because everyone else has already been wiped out. I think that's his plan, but I might be remembering it wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to follow.
Yeah, I don't remember why he's using, like why specifically he's using the pheromones, like what his stated goal is for what he's doing with it.
I thought he was putting him in there after he was done shredding everything to summon them there so that it would almost seem like they destroyed everything. Right.
Like I said, could be. I might just be remembering it wrong, or maybe I missed a chunk of it, or maybe I read it poor. Like I don't know. I might actually be wrong.
And then I kind of thought the pheromones were just his insurance, his protection against, like he could put them on if he felt like he was in danger, he could summon the xenomorphs. Yeah, he had taken the pheromone from the first stage xenomorph, the endoparasite that Beresford had removed prematurely. Okay, so it does say that he got it from the
chest burster, but like we already know that's not possible. So.
All right, so just more.
He just got that wrong in this paragraph. That's
just
fine.
Some more sloppiness. Okay. Closed the gate outside with fingers and he dropped them down the interior of the tube right where no one would see them. Then he picked up his rifle. Yeah, it doesn't really clarify in here. I think he just has it as like an insurance policy to protect himself, or as something he can maybe offer. Hey, here's a thing I can do if you'll keep me alive. I'll show you how to do this. I don't know. Maybe it's just his insurance policy.
Anyway, he's a cool guy and he's great and we love him and we're very glad he's still running around doing stuff. That's for sure.
Totally. He does.
Anyway, folks.
He does at least tell the crew of the Hornblower that he thinks that the xenomorphs would probably be full grown now and would be able to blend in with the ship. One thing that John Shirley mentions in his author's note at the beginning is that he theorizes that it's not just food that the xenomorphs are eating. They're kind of eating anything. Organic material, inorganic material, metal and scraps and stuff like that, which is kind of cool since they are sort of like that, organic machine, and often described as metallic with their teeth and everything. I do wonder if, I don't know, man. I feel like there's there's versions of these ideas where the xenomorph doesn't always look like it does, where it adapts more to blend in with its specific environment. That could be a really cool thing to explore.
I think there's a point in this book where a character implies that, like, it might even be right here, where they imply that the reason the xenomorphs are like, masters at stealth and are, like dark and are so able to like easily blend into hallways on a spaceship is because they were born on a spaceship. And so their body like became something to make them become very good at what they do in these specific confines, implying that they're dark and they're silent and they're like black and all that because they were born on a spaceship. And so like if they were born on like an ice planet or whatever, they wouldn't look like that. I mean, other alien media has shown that's not true, but the implication is mentioned at some point in this book, and I do think that's a cool idea. I'm saying
it's a cool idea too, and I'm calling out other alien media. I mean,
that's right.
I think you were closing up. This, ladies and gentlemen, et cetera, et cetera.
It is the end of the section of the book that we read.
Yes.
We've gotten to the end of what we're covering for this episode. But since we're just like, talking about what we read, I didn't really feel the need to go on. So
yeah, well, I want to get into some specifics. I think there are a lot of really creative ideas in here that could be explored. I think, we've said two things on this podcast. We've said we would love to just see Alien over and over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've also, at times, I've probably more than you have said that I would like to see them do something different, because how many times has a story ended with them, we're going to take the fight back to Weyland-Yutani or whatever else,
Take the fight to them. That's right.
I think that this is doing a good version overall. Nitpicks about pacing or, aesthetic choices or whatever, editing or this and that. I think this is doing a good choice overall of delivering some alien shit, but also introducing some new ideas and new ways to explore that alien shit. Like some new concepts that still feel like alien. You know what I mean? I don't know that this alien race that we're getting introduced to so far, hasn't really mattered at all to the story whatsoever.
It has not. That is correct. They're like the GIF have literally no narrative reason to exist so far. That is correct.
It could be anything or anyone. It could be the space jockeys, right? It could have been. It could be the engineers if this was not written in 2007, etc. You know. But he's, I don't know, man, some extremely gory and creative chestburster scenes, some interesting ideas about I don't know how I feel about this pheromone thing, right? But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that was a little weird to me, but well, I mean, it was introduced right at the very end, like in the last half of the last chapter of what we read. So it showed up just for the first time right as we were stopping reading the book. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes, but some interesting ideas about the xenomorph life cycle and like we only read half the book and a lot of that stuff happened pretty quickly. I mean, in the scope of reading this entire book, if the second half of this book is as packed as this half was with cool, weird shit, like I think I'm going to overall really enjoy this, as critical as I may have been on this half at times. I'm looking forward to reading the next half. Cool.
Yeah. How do you feel about it, Kenny?
I started off my discussion of this book by being critical about it on purpose. And that purpose was so that at the end of the episode, I could be like, actually, I thought it was really good so far because like, it's like, I will admit it's a slog to get through at the beginning. The first few chapters kind of drag, very little happens. Like, in the context of what we read for this episode, it takes a while to get going. In the context of the book overall, it's actually a pretty small chunk of the book, but it's like almost half of what we read.
Right.
So it felt like it took a while to get going. It was kind of a slog at the beginning. Nothing really happened. Like, I don't want to say necessarily that his writing style is bad, because the motherfucker's been writing professionally for like 40 years or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So clearly he's good at it and people like what he does. And so maybe this just isn't his forte of the kind of stuff he can do. Maybe this just isn't him at his best. But like, I really had genuinely had a lot of trouble, like struggling with a lot of like the narration and the descriptions and stuff. But like once all that stuff got out of the way, like once they finally were able to establish that, they didn't have to tell us what a diamond flyer was. They could just say they got on their diamond flyer, and I'm like, oh, I already know what that is. Okay, cool. Like once we don't need to spend a narrative shrift like talking about this stuff, and they can get into like the character drama and have the xenomorphs finally show up and all that. Like once that shit starts happening, the book actually gets pretty fucking good. Like there's a few different scenes that I thought were like really gory and gross and cool. Like that scene where Collindale fucking falls off the bed and breaks his spine in half. I was like, man, that's gnarly as shit, dog. That's gnarly as hell.
It was just really piling it on, you know?
Yeah. And like they really like they do a lot of cool stuff. Like the xenomorphs are really gross and gnarly and like very murdery in this book. It's cool to see adolescent xenomorphs running around because that's something we almost never see.
Yeah.
You know, and like the characters really leave a lot to be desired outside of like the main 3 or 4, but like that's fine because, you know, when you have an alien story where 80% of the cast barely gets a personality, you know what that means? It means that 80% of the cast is going to get killed in a cool way that's fun to see.
Oh, yes.
So,
I mean,
like,
speaking of Star Trek, these are all a bunch of red shirts, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And so, like, they might not have a lot of personality, and the ones that do might be very stereotypical, but like we know that they're there to get killed by a xenomorph.
Yeah.
And so I'm reading the book so I can be like, I want to see how this guy gets killed by a xenomorph. This is going to be cool. And so like I said, at the beginning of the episode, I was like overly critical on the book, being like, like the writing is weird, the descriptions are bad. Like I went out of my way to point out the stuff that I didn't like about the book so that at the end of the episode I could go, yeah, but like the other 80% of what we read was good as hell.
I still have...
I wanted to get the bad stuff out of the way first,
Sure. I still have issues with the writing, the style. It's just not for me. I'm not,
that's fine.
But, I'm not a writer. And if I can't, again, this guy's had a prolific career. Fuck. He wrote half the screenplay for The Crow. I'm sure he's got a lot of books that I would really enjoy. I'm going to read that Doom movie adaptation one of these days.
I'm getting the feeling this doesn't seem to play to his strengths as an author is all.
Yeah, I think he wrote knowing, like, I think he wrote with the intention of like, I'm going to make most of these characters disposable. And like, that was a choice, right? Yeah, he padded, he got 15 characters in this. So he had a whole lot of people to kill off. I mean, I think all of these things were...
Excuse me, 16. One of them shows up in chapter 5. Get it right.
My mistake. All right. I think he wrote 15. I think he wrote 15 characters because he wanted to kill a lot of them off, and then he needed one more to kill off. So he added one in there and thought nobody would notice.
There we go. Thank you.
How about that?
You can't forget about my man, Harl Buxton.
All of these things are problems. And I think, when I said it feels like fan fiction, I'm going to stand by that. It does feel like fan fiction. The tone and stuff like that changes, like in the writing. It doesn't feel consistent to me, but that doesn't mean I'm not having fun reading it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes you just want that. You just want the slop. I called Mark Millar a hack.
You did. That's true.
Earlier in this podcast.
Yeah, in this very episode. Yes, when we were talking about King.
In this very episode. Yeah. I'm still going to read more of his Ultimate X-Men book. That book sucks.
Yeah, sure.
But sometimes you just want that, right? You just want the garbage. Sometimes you just want to read the garbage because every now and then there's a scene where a guy cuts a chest burster out of himself. Like every now and then there's a scene where in Ultimates 2, Hawkeye rips his own fingernails off to take out a room full of bad guys. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Sometimes you got to sit through the garbage to see something cool. Okay. One
other thing I will say is that your assertion that it reads like fan fiction, another way that it does is that I think 4 times over the course of the 12 chapters we read, it is a story about a main character that 4 separate times over the course of the first half of the book, we get like half a page of narration about how they're horny and want to fuck someone.
Sure. The self-insert character of John Shirley, no doubt.
Yeah. And it's like, the thing of it is I'm not even saying that's necessarily out of place. Because like at the very beginning of the novel, like when we're introduced to him and Ashley and like we're told that he has a crush on Ashley and like wants to bang her and she's like hot and stuff. The thing of it is that at that point in the story, nothing weird had happened. So there isn't like a major, more pressing, important thing going on. So what would be the thing he would care about? How weird and awkward it is to have a crew member that he like has the hots for. Like that would be the thing that would be important to him because like the plot of the book hadn't started yet,
Yeah.
So that would be what he would care about. So to me, I was like, yeah, okay, that seems normal to me. That doesn't seem weird to me. And then they brought it up later after Chestburster showed up, and I was like, all right, now maybe now isn't the time, but like earlier on I thought it made sense.
Sure. Yeah. It's all choices.
It sure is.
That's all. That's all I got.
And it's all choices, and he maybe didn't make all of the same choices I would have, but I can't say I have a problem with most of the ones he did make.
These are also some very 2007 choices.
They sure are.
All right. So next time we're going to read chapter 13 through the end of this sucker.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's 24 chapters, something like that.
I think I don't have, get this. I read the ebook of it.
Whoa.
Best-selling ebook author, baby. But I don't have my tablet like within arm's reach of where I'm sitting, so I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. But yeah, probably because listeners, as Neil mentioned earlier, the end of chapter 12 like is roughly about the halfway point of the book. So there's probably about 24 or maybe 25 chapters. That seems about right.
Well, I think all I did was look at the overall number of chapters and split it in half when I was like, okay, we're going to split this right in half. It's not, because it was only like 270 pages. I was like, that'll be even enough.
Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah, we don't have to hold Bob's hand through this one. We'll be fine. Shout out to Bob from the Flock podcast. Yeah, go listen to more video games talk.
He just got back from a trip to Japan, and I bet he won't shut up about it.
Boy, he sure did, didn't he?
He sure did.
Yeah. Hey, and everybody out there, this is important. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. What's our YouTube channel, Kenny? youtube.com/@.
It's youtube.com/@crewexpendable.
Because our friend Tom, who
we mentioned earlier, of Mr. Blobby fame.
You all know Tom, has done a toy review of the NECA Alien Romulus Ultimate Scorched Xenomorph figure, video and everything.
Now, listeners, I should let you know that the fact that Tom did a review of it on our YouTube page does not mean we won't be talking about it at some point on the show. We will sooner or later do toys episodes, but we just haven't yet. So
yeah, I don't think we will be doing an episode on the NECA Scorched Xenomorph figure. My assumption was that we were going to be doing episodes on the toys, and then on one of the episodes of toys that we do, that will just be talked about. Yeah. You know? We'll probably have Tom on the podcast
I don't think
to talk about toys.
We're not going to do an episode about every single toy individually that they made for Alien.
We definitely won't be.
It would be funny if we did, but we're not going to do that.
Go subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't. Go check out Tom's toy review. Click the link in the podcast description here on this episode, and give the guy some nice, sweet comments. We've had some nice comments already on it. He's looking forward to doing more for us, which I'm all for because he is a toy maniac.
Yeah, he was extremely enthusiastic about doing it. Like I think Neil, it was your idea to do it, and then you mentioned it to Tom, and he immediately was like, "Oh yeah."
It was kind of a collective sort of. I think he was like, "I kind of wanted to do this," and I was like, "Well, yeah, okay, do it. Let's do it. Let's go." So go check it out. I'm ready to get out of here, Kenny. Are you ready to get out of here?
Yeah, I'm good. I don't think there's anything else about the first half of this book, Steel Egg, that I wanted to say, so I think I'm good to go too.
All right. Where can people find you on the internet if you want them to?
At CYHOBBEZ. I'm still on Twitter. I'm also on Blue Sky.
You can find me on Instagram at FinalNeil. That's all I'm really plugging right now.
Cool.
Blue Sky and Threads, but I haven't figured out what I want to use those for.
Yeah, Blue Sky is a website that I keep forgetting exists and therefore keep forgetting to post on. It's I'll remember like once every 2.5 months. Oh yeah, I have a Blue Sky account.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about trying to do Instagram stuff again. So cool. Instagram at FinalNeil. Where can people find the show?
Well, we already mentioned the YouTube, youtube.com/@crewexpendable. We already mentioned the email, mother@crewexpendable.net. Our website is crewexpendable.net. Our Instagram and our threads is both @crewexpendablepod. Our Blue Sky is @crewexpendable, and our Twitter account, which I pretty much run solo because Neil doesn't have a Twitter account anymore, is @crewexpendapod.
And I think we should get rid of it.
We probably should. That's true. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to right now, but sooner or later I should probably get around to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll be back next time to talk about the rest of Aliens Steel Egg. So until then, stay frosty.